Welcome everybody to the Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing Program Series Kickoff. This is the recorded version of the session that we did last Thursday night. So for those of you who missed it, we're just kind of going over the basics of the program and giving you all a chance to ask questions. So I kind of want to get through this, but however, I am monitoring the chat box. So anytime, please ask a question. If you want to also have you just sort of elaborate and ask it vocally, I can unmute you. So just let me know and I'll unmute you and we can have a little dialogue as well. So please ask the question as you have it. Don't wait till the end. I just want to make the most sense for you all to see, see how you can move forward with it. So. For those of you who are here today, if you want to put into the participant box just your name, your profession, your company, if you've done affordable housing, and if you've done a green certification before, that way I can identify who you are. That's fine, or you can just send me an email as well. All right, so the GreenHome Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. We have been headquartered and operating in Grand Rapids since the beginning, back in 2000, so we're coming up on 20 years. Most of the time we've been under the name Alliance for Environmental Sustainability. Since then we've grown to serve the Midwest, national, and international markets, depending on what kind of program we have. However, for this specific program, we are solely focused on the city of Grand Rapids. So the Wege Foundation is an organization that is started by Peter Wege. They, to my understanding, last year celebrated their 50th year of existence. Very exciting. They have a very good focus on the environment and environmental causes, as well as arts, and in this case, affordable housing. They originally funded our executive director position way before my time in 2005. Before that, we were all board operated. And then in 2014, they kick-started the Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing Program by funding us then, and have refunded us now in 2018 again to continue that program. So we're very thankful for the foundation, and we hope that if you all have specific affordable housing projects, they're definitely somebody worth reaching out to. Now they do require green certification on their projects, and so that's where we come in to help sort of bridge that barrier on how to build from just code or barely legal to building a better, healthy, more energy efficient building for the people you serve. So what is Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing? So this is a program, again, that's in its sort of fourth year, second round of funding, and the whole idea of it is, again, to just break down the barriers to achieving affordable housing, green certification, and improvements. And so a lot of times, obviously, in the low-income, affordable, or supportive housing arena, there's always a lack of resources. And so every dollar needs to be spent on more beds, more housing, more people, and doesn't often get put into energy efficiency or health or water conservation or you name it. And so trying to come in and figure out where those gaps exist and how we can help bridge those gaps and bring in more resources to achieve that in the city of Grand Rapids. So the goals are helping affordable housing developers or builders or designers or those who are lending support understand what better building practices are. So, a lot of people don't understand what they are, and of course, better building practices change every year. It's a moving target, and so keeping everybody up to date on what those are, and then having a knowledge of what resources exist, whether they be financial or utility rebates or grants or technologies or strategies. And then capacity building, so bringing on credentials within your firm so that you are on a track to understand green building, to show you understand it, which funders like, and then also to be able to implement green building. And so bringing on that those credentials, whatever they may be. And then ultimately getting more and more affordable housing units and homes and redevelopments certified through some kind of green certification, which then is going to lend to healthier and lower cost buildings for affordable housing tenants and supportive housing. And ultimately, we just want to break those barriers down that exist to show that affordable housing, it's not affordable if it's not green, rather than the other way around. So what is affordable housing? We're looking at 60 to 100% area median income with sort of a target of 80, which is where Grand Rapids programs are all landing. 60 is where the low-income housing tax credit is landing, and actually there's an extra LEED credit if you can hit at least 100% AMI in your area. So it kind of bounces around, and then obviously the lower the number, the better you are to get approved for our program. However, we do know there is the missing middle, which is becoming a bigger issue of just sort of normal affordability, and that so we want to take a look at that if that falls into the low income. And then of course supportive housing, so senior, youth, homeless, special needs, accessibility, and there probably are sorts of all other ways you can identify supportive housing, and so we don't want to leave any out. Let us know what kind of ideas you have. So put that in perspective, in Kent County in 2017, a two-person household making a combined $31K was considered to be at 60% AMI, and an affordable renter, so that's buying a house, and an affordable rent would be about $796 per month. At 80%, we were looking at 42, and rent would be 1062. So just to kind of put that in perspective, I'm sure there's calculators out there that you can use. So if there's any questions on what affordable housing is, yep. So a joke is people call us, yeah, you know, we're developing a house and it's going to be affordable. Yeah, okay. So that's funny. And I don't think they're trying to be funny, but yes, it must meet these certain low-income AMI targets. It can't just be your definition of something that you think somebody can pay for. All right, so who are we working with? What kind of projects? What kind of organizations? So we're working, you know, nonprofits, obviously an easy one, right? B Corp's very easy. However, we are working with for-profit entities that are assisting in this area. So just because they're for-profit doesn't mean we can't work with you. And then, of course, existing buildings. Typically, existing buildings have all sorts of issues: lead, asbestos, health, poor indoor air quality, health issues with the way cleaners are stored, hemorrhaging energy. And so obviously we want to assist the poor performing buildings, and so those are the ones we're kind of going after and really excited about if we can help make property improvements, because new construction now follows newer energy codes, and so it's always typically better. However, we can also assist with green certification on new construction as well. Single family attached, which cuts off at about 4 units. Multifamily housing, mixed use housing, so if there is a commercial element to it, that's fine. It doesn't preclude you from working with us. And then also mixed income. In fact, there are studies showing that mixed income developments actually could be even healthier than all low income. And so again, we're going to take a look at those and don't think just because a development might have some different income strategies within it that it would be outside of our realm. Again, City of Grand Rapids only. If you want to come to some of our trainings that we have coming up and you're outside of the city, that's fine. We're looking for funding to help get you there. There might be a small fee. However, as far as the certification and consulting goes, we're looking at projects within the city only. Ideally, we want to see some sort of 10-year commitment to those who are doing renting or rental units, and ensuring that if we help a family get an improvement, they don't just turn around and sell the house at a higher value. And then homes for sale as affordable AMI as well. So what is green building? What does that mean? So we look at green building through the 5 pillars of green. And we're going to be doing a whole in-person course probably in April or May. I think we're going to do it at Link on the introduction to residential green rebuilding and taking a real deep dive into that. But just sort of at a higher level, when I say green certification, when I say green building, we're talking about these 5 pillars. And obviously the easiest one is energy, right? It's very quantifiable. You can see exactly how much through energy modeling your tenants are going to pay before the work is done, before the improvement is done, and then how much they're going to pay afterwards. And so that's just easy money, right? So we can take a look at the utility burden on the tenants or on the people you're selling the house to and immediately determine how we want to get that utility burden down all the way to potentially zero, which there are low-income, zero-energy housing out there. And I don't want to scare anybody away. It's just it's something that we can look at, and there are potential manufacturers that can help get there too. So what is the utility burden to the people you're serving? And just know that energy grows at about a 2% rate every year in cost. That's very conservative. So you know that burden is always going to grow on your tenants, or even if you pay the bill on their behalf. So energy efficiency, very easy. Now, say it with me, build it tight, ventilate it right. So we want to start looking at health aspects of buildings. That's compartmentalization, how units are sealed off from each other. That's how units are sealed off from the outside, because you don't want homes breathing through the walls, which can cause all sorts of health issues, also pest issues. And so we want to have a nice sealed up house that has good ventilation in it. So there's proof out there that properly ventilated homes through the hood range, through bath fans, through energy recovery ventilators are going to have a direct impact on asthma, allergy symptoms, and potentially even cancers, as far as you know, holding some of those symptoms back or preventing it from happening in the first place. So again, people in low-income housing situations, having less access to resources, so taking more of a preventative approach. They're looking at lead, asbestos. Those are all things that through some of the programs have to be either mitigated or sealed up and ensured that they're not hurting people. All the way down to the materials that are off-gassing in the house, selecting better materials that off-gas less, so that you're not causing a health problem in the first place. And then, yeah, getting into the material side of things, looking at refurbishment, keeping costs down by reusing things, looking at recycled content, looking at bio-based materials, more locally sourced materials, just materials that have a lighter impact on the environment, cabinetry that's sealed up so it's not off-gassing formaldehyde. Working with Habitat Restore or reuse centers to bring in materials that can be reused. Those are all things that help on the material sides of points that we want to take a look at as well. Oh, and then durability, I forgot to mention, is keeping water out of homes. Very simple stuff, but not doing the durability strategy could have an impact with mold, rot, rain coming in, Michigan basements, those kinds of things. So we want to help look at those. Water, so water conservation. So again, we're getting more and more, we're getting better at being able to say, here, based on the project you're doing, here is the water bill your client can plan, or the person you're serving can plan to pay. So how much of a water bill do they want to pay? I don't know if you've seen, but Grand Rapids is raising their water rates next year. We have proof that water rates are going up all over the place, and so very simple things you can do to help your the constituents reduce their water bills, stop water leaks, which can also cause durability issues, and all of those items. So we want to cut those water use bills down and save money. And then lastly, place. So Grand Rapids has really good connectivity. So again, just taking a look at where your projects are. Do people have access to walkable neighborhoods, bus, bike, you name it? Is there something we can do if they don't have access to that? Is there something we can do with the city? Can we reach out to them and try to figure that out so that way they don't have such reliance on cars? Location efficiency can play a huge role. If your constituents can get around without being so dependent on a car or 2 cars to where they need to be, that can save a lot of money and save a lot of carbon emissions in that case too. And this slide kind of got botched up a little bit, but you can see it in your handout. So again, in the last program we did, we kind of said, you got to just do LEED and that's it. And so that really leaves out a lot of projects. And so we're going to take a look at all of these different green rating systems out there and see which one serves your needs. And maybe you have a handful, like for example, Green Star is a good remodeling program. But which one of these programs serves your needs a little bit more, and maybe you have multiple ones depending on what kind of project you're doing. And so yeah, the handout is available. You can download it there in the multimedia viewer. I think it's there, and then also it's in on this side tab over here. But I can send that handout over to you. But anyway, we're going to do a session that compares all of these different green rating systems, why you would pick one over another, or why you should be aware of them, so you can choose one over another depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and especially as how they relate to low-income housing tax credits, because there's only 3 approved for those if you're trying to go after those. So we'll be doing a whole session on that locally here in GR. And again, when you're working with us, don't feel you have to do LEED. We love LEED, but that's not always the answer. And so we'll be taking a look at each of these different options. Okay, so the way that the process works is that the whole idea is that an awareness, right? So right now you're just getting an understanding as to whether you fit into this program or could fit in the future. And then going through education. What is green building? What does it look like? What are the 5 pillars of green mean for renovations, new constructions? What does green certification look like? What are some strategies to get there? And then finally, you might start to say, okay, I should pick up a credential, a LEED AP, a Green Associates, become a certified green home professional, home energy score assessor, you know, BPI professional, you name it. We're going to help you look at whatever credential makes the most sense for you or one of your staff members or your consultants. And then from there, preliminary planning. So this is where you've got an actual project, whether it be a renovation or a new construction. So if it's a renovation, we're going to come in and probably inspect the building, see where it's at, measure it up, score it out, and then put up a plan together to see how we can take it to the next level. If it's a new construction, then it's real easy, and we can start looking at the plans and try to alter them immediately before they get too far along to see how sustainable they are. However, we know a lot of you are really busy, and you don't have time, and you just want to jump right in, and if you're like me, you learn by doing. So skip all that stuff here. Obviously, you're here today, but skip all this, and let's just head right to the preliminary planning stage. And that's what we're doing with several folks. They're like, you know what? The homes are going to be built in 2 months. Plans are in. What do we do? I don't have time to sit through 6 months of your classes, Brett. So that's one thing that we learned from the last time we did in 2014. We'd love to have you at the classes. We'd love to help you get educated. Still good value. But if you got a project ready to go, let's just dive in head first, and we'll learn along the way. So from there, you know, you might say, okay, well, to get to LEED certification or Green Star, you know, or to get to a certain level of it, we're going to need some more dollars. We're going to need some help. And so that's where we're going to work with you to look at some funding, some financing, some grant opportunities. What can we do to help figure out, you know, where it is you go from just code or where your building's at now to one that has a green certification? Can we find some funding and financing and piece it all together? And so we're going to help you with that. And then at that point, when we all feel real comfortable, we register the project. Whether it be LEED or Green Star, we just put it through project registration. And then at that point, you know, your project is underway, you're building, you're remodeling, you're renovating, and the energy raters and the green inspectors are coming out and they're reviewing it, and they're looking at taking a peek behind the drywall, taking a peek at the ducts, looking at things before they get closed off, and then just making sure everything's done right. And if something goes wrong, they're communicating that to the team, and then it's getting fixed. And then after all the final inspections are done and testing, a final submission will be completed, and then you will ultimately get your project certified. And so that's the ultimate goal, is to get it to this level, and then repeat. Right? We'll do more. So what are some resources out there? So the Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing Program is going to pay for registration, certification costs, cover some of your energy testing and modeling fees and your consulting. So first of all, let me just say, on the consulting end, that's a huge barrier, right? You want to get started, you want to get some ideas, but then you got to hire a consultant, and you just don't have the fees to do that. So we're breaking that barrier down. We're coming in, and we're going to take a look at what you're doing, and we're not going to say, yep, I've been sitting with you for 2 hours, here's a bill. None of that's going to happen. We're going to be taking a look. We're going to do some early energy testing or modeling for you to get a sense of where you're at, maybe pay for some of that testing for inspections on existing homes, and then go from there and just kind of cover. We're going to take that burden away from you so you don't have to worry about that. People come to me about the lead fees and everything, and again, if we're going to go the lead route, don't worry about those lead fees. For the most part, within reason, unless you've got a massive mixed-use multifamily building, we're going to be able to cover those as well. So we want to definitely remove those stumbling blocks if you're accepted into our program. As far as energy testing goes, now under the Michigan Code, there is requirements that you do testing already. So we certainly don't want to fund something that you have to do already. So what we can do is kind of take a look at where your energy test costs end and where the extra green rating stuff begins. And so that's where we can figure out where that gap is between code testing and green rating and kind of see if we can fill that in for you. So utility rebates, so Consumers Energy has an affordable housing program where they're giving out lighting and refrigerators and maybe even electric water heaters. They have utility rebates for new builds and renovations up to $1,700 per unit. And then they also have just regular rebates as well. So how can those help you meet your goals? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac have mortgage insurance discounts for green certifications. We'll look at that. If you want to pursue low-income housing tax credits, it's certainly a big effort. So the only part we can help you out with is the green piece. So typically, LEED Silver certified or energy or enterprise green communities, we can help you feel confident that you can meet that before you go applying for tax credits. Or the Federal Home Loan Bank, which also has those same requirements. And then, you know, the other idea is that we can get you prepared for grant funders. So you can go to a funder like Wege or Grand Rapids Community or whoever and say, look, you know, we're going to make this a green building. It's going to reduce costs, improve tenant health. And so we can at least help you cover that portion of your grant submittal and say, yep, we've worked with GHI and it's looking pretty good. And if that can help you obtain those funds to actually get the project done, then great. We also think that green building gets people really excited. And so when you can communicate a good message, you can bring in more donations, you can bring in more volunteers, people who want to do technical assistance, you name it. People get real excited, so that's another benefit there. These are actually things that are available to market rate as well, but they can also help you. So this has been reapproved for 2018, $500 as a tax credit. If you're working with somebody who's got an existing home and they're in a low-income situation, they can get a $500 tax credit for improvements. There's 30% tax deductions on geothermal now that have been reapproved for several years, and solar energy. So again, some of you go-getters who want to go to the extreme. There are 2 tax credits for developers on renovations or energy efficiency new builds. So that's up to $2,000 per unit, but it has to be through a for-profit developer through the HERS rating that was approved for last year, and for the last 10 years has been approved every year. And then we can also connect you with organizations that are doing green mortgages, if you have homeowners that are getting mortgages, or Michigan Saves, which can lend up to $30,000 at 4.99%, I believe, or so, unsecured loan for new or existing. And then for those of you who are doing major projects that are over $800,000 in value or so, property assessed clean energy PACE can work with affordable housing projects as well and help you bridge that gap. So that's on a really large scale stuff. So, and then this is something we're working on internally, but eventually, you know, all the energy that you generate reduces a carbon offset. And so we're going to quantify those carbon offsets that you save in your projects, and then that way we can take those to the market and actually maybe pay you to do your next project and so you can generate money that way. And so we're evaluating how that would work, but we're trying to create sort of a green affordable housing offset fund. Some other things that are available now, the Small Business Energy Assistance Program can be used for multifamily. So that's 5 stories and up. We're actually 20 units and up, anything that's 20 units or up. So if you've got a affordable housing multifamily project now, they're going to give you a little more detail than we're going to be able to give you. So I'd recommend reaching out to the USGBC West Michigan, and if you've got a low-income housing apartment complex that you want to get an energy assessment done on, reach out to them. Some of our sponsors are interested in helping you. So Niagara Conservation, one of the lowest flowing toilets on the planet. We have affordable housing developers that only spec this toilet because it's more durable and it cuts the utility bills. And I've had one for 4 years, worked great. They're actually looking at maybe assisting in some ways. Build Equinox, smart ventilation systems, GeoComfort, geothermal systems actually are looking at helping out. Panasonic, we've got a local person for Panasonic here, and they have been known to be able to assist in these situations. Shrinergy for solar energy, and then T-Stud, this is pretty cool. This is a thermally insulated stud that allows you to get some of the same R values without paying for the expense of exterior wall insulation. And so again, they're interested in assisting and helping out and seeing where. And we're just having tons of manufacturers come out of the woodwork that want to support the Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing cause. So we're going to be connecting you all with those manufacturers and seeing if they can give you discounted or free product to some degree. So for example, Well House took advantage of 2 free super low flow toilets from Niagara just recently on their LEED certified project. So the City of Grand Rapids is now supporting green affordable housing, which is really exciting. Just to kind of what that means in practice is that there will be tax incentives in certain zones where rental units that are set aside for 80% AMI are where you set aside your units. So very exciting there. And then, creating these voluntary equitable development agreements with the city to, get access to an affordable housing fund to make your project happen. And those are just the 2 that have been approved, and there's more that they're going to be looking at in October to help make affordable housing more realistic in the city. The city also has expanded their 2030 district to the entire city. So if you've got property and it's multifamily, 20 units or more, reach out. It's a great working group on how to reduce energy, water, and transportation needs for your tenants. And so this is just a commitment that you would make with your building. It's voluntary, and there's just groups that are meeting to help figure out how to do this. And then the city itself is committing to 0 cities or no emissions by 2050. And so right now they're just sort of taking stock of what's going on, but eventually they'll be putting resources together to do this. And so again, this is a great time for your developments, and this is even on single family, multifamily. Every single thing that generates energy or demands energy is going to be impacted by this. And so this is a great time for you to start looking at this, and then when the city starts putting resources together, you'll be ready to go. The other thing is Kent County Landfill Reduction, Waste Reduction is looking at 20% by 20 and 90% by 30. And so if you're planning projects, they are putting some resources together to help you reduce landfill waste during your project, which they've identified as their #1 culprit. But then also, your ongoing waste mitigation for your tenants, especially in multifamily. How is it that we can encourage them to reduce waste further, and maybe there might be some resources there. So again, on the construction side, mitigating waste, that's a one-time thing, looking into resources for that. But on the operations side, if you've got rental units, again, that continual reduction of waste, working with your tenants to do that. So just who's done this before? So Well House, very excited. They're using the Housing First model in Grand Rapids to get the homeless off the street into homes. paying rent, being involved, and they kind of baby stepped with us. They kind of looked at doing some home energy stuff at first, just getting their homes scored out in the energy rating systems, and then they finally just went for it and got their first renovation certified to LEED v4 Gold. So very exciting. And again, just a great example of, you know, you don't have to go 100 miles an hour to LEED, but let's just start out with some energy assessments, energy ratings, seeing where you're at, and then kind of moving you along that continuum of sustainability in your developments. And then here's the Keeler Building. This is an example of a developer who came to us and said, yep, we're going to be looking at all of these different funds, and they have to have green certification. I have no idea what that means. And so, you know, we worked up front to help them get a better understanding. And, you know, now we're looking at a building that's, you know, attempting to go zero energy right downtown, multifamily mixed use, 8-story. You know, how can we drive that energy demand down and improve health? And so that's another area where we can, that's just another success story of where we've, you know, got the project at least started, got the idea started, so when funding does come through, they know what to do. All right, so what are the next steps for you? Attend a course. We've got all these cool courses that are going to be coming up on Introduction to Green, comparing the rating systems, looking at energy modeling, looking at solar, financing for affordable housing panel, accessibility, universal design. So look out for those courses. They'll all be free for you to attend under the grant. And then this is the enterprise.org Solutions and Innovations Design Leadership Challenge. So this is pretty cool. You can sign up for this now and get accepted into this Affordable Housing Design Leadership Institute, where you're going to be doing like 3 days of just intense training on how to design better affordable housing. So you can go check that out at enterprisecommunity.org. Let's see, get credentialed. So we've got training and resources to get your LEED Green Associates and then to get your LEED AP Homes. Or you can also take our online, on-demand, open book, open note, certified Green Home Professional training as well now. So I can hand that over to you too. Otherwise, get moving. Submit your projects and details on our website. Start getting an energy audit or a preliminary plan review done. Start doing some team meetings and design shreds, and we can do some one-on-one meetings to discuss, you know, what you want to do as well. And then, yeah, so apply now, greenhomeinstitute.org/Grand Rapids Green Affordable Housing. You can go in there and you can see all the details that we need to get you into the program. Also, you can just bypass all that and call me or email me. I'm in town weekly now, meeting with teams. We're kind of just taking the first meeting where we look at what it is you're doing, does it apply to this, and then maybe the second meeting we're just really looking at plans and scopes of work and just really diving into it. And so we're starting that process now. We still have tons of room for more projects, so we hope you'll join us. So were there any other questions? I know I went over time just about a little bit, got a little bit of a late start, but were there any specific questions? So this presentation, along with the slides, will be right on our website. The video will be up there, and then the slides will be right up there on that link I shared with you. And they should be here. I don't know why. They should be in the multimedia viewer, or they should be over here, but not everybody can download them. So, well, it looks like I've answered everybody's questions. I got to get going here. Thanks for your time, and just, you know, give me a call if you see anything pop up. Thanks.